Good evening and welcome to Nightfall in Amsterdam. Tonight we are joining the kindred of Amsterdam as the local prince, who a couple of us have met briefly elsewhere, Prince Gunnar, has called the kindred together to Elysium. He's called everyone to gather, as he frequently does, in the forest of the Vliegenbos, which is a small city forest. It's also where he tends to keep court. And while some of the traditionalists have balked at holding something as formal as court in the middle of a forest, it has an appeal for many of the kindred as well, especially as it is a older region of the city. Tonight, our wonderful newcomers are joining the court as Miss Flynn and her retainer, Miss Diaz, were given a direct invitation from their new point of contact, Marius. As you may recall, Marius is the kindred groundskeeper for the local cemetery where they're now residing, and he has made them aware of this Elysium as a easy opportunity to introduce oneself. Further, we have a kindred who's been in the city but somewhat shut away until now, Miss Elizabeth Grant. She has received a letter, oddly enough, from a local fashion designer. However, this individual seems to be aware of kindred society. What her role in it is unknown. But she has directed Miss Grant that she should head to the Vliegenbos tonight, and it will be a opportunity for her. As night begins to deepen, the kindred do gather, some in groups, some arriving individually. And it's a fairly social event as they enter the forest and as they walk deeper into the forest. Many of the local kindred are whispering because Prince Gunnar rarely calls a formal court. Additionally, some who are newer to the city and have not had the opportunity to visit one of his courts before find it slightly unnerving, as there are rumors that not only with time, but magic has helped to sustain this forest. And indeed, it has a almost otherworldly feel as you enter. As you had approached the forest, Emma, there's a young woman there we would recognize as the fashion designer in question. She quite well dressed for a walk in the forest.
Elizabeth is quite well dressed herself. she's starting to regret wearing suede shoes, but she's dressed in a very expensive Yves Saint Laurent suede jacket, knee-high suede tri-color boots, um, dark blue Levi jeans, and a black t-shirt with a portrait of Billie Holiday on it, and a gold cross hangs from her neck. She approaches nervously and says, I believe you wanted me to come here? It wasn't very easy to slip past the paparazzi, but here I am.
She turns around, or turns to you, and approaches, and actually gets fairly close, gives you a kiss on each cheek, and you can see, um, and as she leans back in her accent, you can detect a hint of French as she says, It's a pleasure to see you. My name is Monique Duval. At least on paper. You know how that goes. And yes, I understand slipping out can be complicated, even when you're just the one making the outfits for the stars. At a certain point, everyone wants to know what you're doing.
Elizabeth smiles. Yes, I certainly understand that. I'm imagining you must know who I am,
She
but
nods.
I'm curious, how did you know I was here?
Well, there's a group of folk I've dealt with before in the city, and well, they may not be the prettiest uh, people you'll ever meet. They tend to be very well informed. It seems that they have some particular objections to you, so they stay somewhat aware, which, when you're in the information business and there's someone you don't care for, it's not hard to keep track of them. Luckily, I pay them well enough to give me the information rather than have them act rashly.
She laughs somewhat nervously. Ah, yes, I guess my reputation just won't die. You say a few wrong things early on and it just follows you. The life of a celebrity, I suppose.
She kind of chuckles and holds her hands out and says, Yes, well, I suppose that's true. It took me quite a few years to live down the joys of browbeating a Ventru in front of his spouse. Apparently, they
She,
found that emasculating, especially at the time.
she snickers, and having now heard the woman openly say the name of a vampire clan, feels a bit more comfortable, and says, So, what brings us here tonight? You can't be telling me that this is the Elysium of Amsterdam? A little lacking in privacy, wouldn't you say?
Well, we'll go further in for the formal Elysium, but even here it's more private than it appears.
Oh,
Prince Gunnar has lived here for many generations, and they say that he's sunk down roots just like an oak tree here. This is his land. And I suppose it doesn't hurt that he's got one of the old clan standing at his side. They've always been well tethered to the lands.
The old clan, she says with a raised eyebrow.
Yes, the true Shemitzi.
She looks
The
aghast.
origins of the clan, not the younger generations that have dabbled in other strange things.
Well, I knew by coming to Europe I would run into some different cultures, but I never expected to find a Zimitzi within the Camarilla.
Well, it's not as uncommon as you might think with the old clan. They've they view the rest of the clan as young, foolish upstarts, and often, if you wish to not be a part of that side, you have little other option.
I see, I see. And so this Prince Dunner, I imagine by our surroundings, he must be Dendrell, I'm assuming?
Well, that's certainly what they say. I mean, some might whisper otherwise, but he's got awful wolfish fangs, and you don't see the golden eyes on many others.
Interesting.
If he's not, I'm
It's
not
not
sure. I
ve-
want to find out what he actually is.
She laughs and nods. Yes, I'm just looking to get on friendly terms with the local kindred, and I don't mean to push anyone's buttons.
Well, I think we'll have plenty of opportunities. I understand you're not the only new kindred in the city, so this should be a pleasant opportunity. A friend of a friend also apparently is bringing a guest this evening.
Oh, interesting.
I'm sure they'll be here shortly, but we can wait a little further inside.
Okay, you lead the way, I'll follow.
And she'll start in on a footpath that's fairly well groomed. Meanwhile, her kindred friend Avalon, as well as her consort, I guess, for lack of a better word, Miss Diaz, have been told to look for Marius when they arrive. He will apparently be with a companion, but you two are welcome to join them when you get here.
Well, Avalon will indeed look for Marius when she gets there. Well, when they get there.
All right. As you arrive, you'll find Marius standing. He's just inside the edge of the woods, and as you get closer, he seems to be in a rather heated argument. Not with the man who's with him, but rather with a large oak tree.
Avalon raises an eyebrow.
And Marius picks up obviously an oaken branch off the ground and starts shaking at the tree. And rather heatedly, he turns and he says, "You saw it, Marty. If it ain't the damn dead, it's the damn trees. Thrice damn branch could have taken me right out. You're telling me in all the wind, all the storms we've had already this spring, this branch didn't come down until this night? There's not even a light breeze, Marty. I'm telling you, these damn trees here."
How old does the tree look?
It's definitely a very large oak tree. It's been there quite a few years. Marius continues, he says, I have the utmost respect for Prince Gunnar. I think it's fantastic. I love that he's embraced and helped to revitalize some of the old ways, but in Elysium and an old forest
is wonderful.
Marius turns and he says, "Do you know how crotchety mortals get in their old age? Imagine how crotchety you would get if you had to stand in the same place for 2 or 3 mortal lifespans."
Well, perhaps that's a discussion to be had at a later date. She kind of eyes up the oak. That being said, it does appear to have been here for quite some time. Surely it didn't just throw the branch at you.
He turns and he says, "These old trees, they got a spirit inside them. It's just like having a person deep inside. And they got that spirit, and spirits are finicky and fickle, especially towards our kind." He turns and
if you say so,
he gives the trunk of the tree a good thwap with the stick, and he starts walking off, and he turns around and he shakes it and he says, "And I'm deep in this one, and you can't stop me." He turns to Marty and he says, "Maybe I'll make it a walking stick, like you got. Not quite as fancy." Oh yeah, Marty, before I wander off on another tangent, or before one of these, and he points the stick around in front of him, decides to take me out and do me in. This here is Miss Avalon Flynn. She's new to the city. And her companion there, Miss Diaz.
Pleasure to meet you.
Hola, senor.
Marty is quite well dressed, especially for a walk in the woods. He has a bowler cap, wearing a suit with tails, very well polished shoes, and a fairly ornate walking stick, which Marius had referenced earlier. Marty kind of lifts his hat slightly. He says, "It is a pleasure and a fine evening for meetings."
Senor Marius, perhaps the tree gave you the stick so that part of it could wander off and travel.
He stops, kind of plants his stick in the ground and raises an eyebrow, looks at you, and he says, "Well, then, if I'm looking to spite the old thing, I'd have to leave it here. But perhaps he wanted me to leave it here, so he's still got a weapon to use against me next time. So I find myself at an impasse."
See, it is quite a conundrum.
Indeed.
Perhaps you should just plant the branch and spoil all of his plans. He can then not have it to hit you with again, and he will not get to go anywhere.
I find that disturbing the Prince's Elysium is far lower on my list than Spite Tree. I'm willing to forego spiting him if it means I avoid the joyous opportunity of pissing off our prince.
Then
Fairly reasonable man, but
perhaps we should destroy the tree then. Make it back whole.
he walks over and he says, "Sure, I'm sure you'd gladly take the branch back if I offered it." And he just kind of holds it out towards the tree and he says, "Well, you want it or not?"
Senor, trees are going to be very slow to reach out to take it. Here, let me show you. And she will put her hands out for the branch.
And he'll hand it to you.
She's gonna. Can she see where the branch broke off?
Yeah, it's a fairly low limb. It's probably, I mean, if you not more than 7-8 feet up.
Can she climb up the tree enough to put it back in that place?
From the ground, she could probably almost get the broken portions together.
Okay. Then she's gonna do that and then run her life magic through it to reconnect it.
Okay. That would be probably a simple other.
It would fall under lower life forms and stuff, so it'd be life 2, I think.
Yeah.
So let's see, look at her numbers. Okay, so it's Arate plus Colt or just Arate right now?
It would be just RK.
And that would be a diff 4?
Yes.
Two successes.
The branch does mend back on, and while it doesn't immediately bloom, you can see healthy color return to it.
Yeah, I figured between Green Thumb and her other plant one, it'd look pretty healthy though. And she will then step back and let the branch go and turn to Marius. Si, senor. The tree is willing to take it back if you know how to speak to it. And not hold the branch quite so far away.
He kind of gives like a huff and starts to turn around. He says, "Just give them one more to hit me with next time, I suppose."
I am sure he will not hit you again. He is happy to have his branch back.
That he is. Well done, darling.
Gracias, mija.
As you guys begin to walk in, Marty over his shoulder, he says, "My tailor has discovered there's another new kindred in the city, so fear not, you will not be the only ones tonight.
Oh. How fun.
And just hope she's not there, just not just another face in the crowd.
If you guys continue to walk, Mary says, "So how are you finding it so far?"
Now that the bathroom is installed, it is much better.
I could see how that could be an asset, yes.
Indeed.
I'm sorry, Mia. I cannot help that I have to have these things.
I am not upset about it. They are indeed quite necessary for you.
And as you guys walk deeper, Marty kind of waves to another woman, which would be her wonderful Elizabeth and her guide. And as he strides over, he kind of gets a big grin. Ah, Monique, good evening. Fine opportunity for Elysium, is it not? And two of them begin to kind of exchange pleasantries, and finally Marty turns and says, "And I suppose some introductions are in order."
Yes, I believe they are. My name is Elizabeth. I'm sure you might know me by another name.
Avalon raises an eyebrow. My name's Avalon. Nice to meet you, Elizabeth.
She extends her hand.
And she will take her hand and shake it.
So, I understand there's another new kindred in the city?
I'm pretty new here, yes.
Oh well, I'm glad I won't be the only one making an introduction.
This is my darling Miranda here, and she'll motion towards Miranda.
Miranda smiles and gives a small curtsy. Senorita.
Elizabeth smiles and looks awkward and shy. So, where did you come from originally?
Oh, I come from a variety of places. Mainly Ireland, and she does have a heavy Irish accent.
I am not from
Oh.
somewhere nearly as exciting. I am just from Southern California.
Oh, so am I, actually. That is where I just came from. Los Angeles, specifically.
Oh, you are a fellow Californian then. Muy bien.
Yes, I definitely have California in my heart. I'm originally from New York, however.
I am sorry to hear that. New York is not nearly as nice as California.
Oh, I I can't choose between the two. I have both the East and the West in my heart.
Must be hard to find yourself here then, señorita.
Well, honestly, there's someone back in California that I'm just not particularly wanting to be around at the moment. And I thought it would be nice to give myself a change of scenery.
It is a lovely place, isn't it?
Yeah, so far I find it very beautiful. And it's the home of one of my favorite philosophers, so I thought maybe it would be a place where I could come for inspiration.
Hmm.
What they are seeking inspiration for, if I may ask.
She tries to read her face, not knowing if Miranda knows who she is, and not wanting to be arrogant about it, but she says, "Oh, I'm something of a celebrity. Um, I'm a musician, and I'm working on a new album, and I thought it would be just good to have a fresh environment." I don't know, John, you can roll whatever you want.
John? Did he fall asleep on us?
John? John?
Yep.
Is it a yup to Natalie's question?
What would I?
want-
What do you want me to roll to as and see if I recognize who this person is? This Elizabeth.
Uh, that is a great question.
I mean, I saw her,
I can.
her fame is 4, so I'm assuming,
Yeah, I don't
like,
think
if
you
you're,
need a roll.
no, especially
I'm
that
gonna
she,
say it's likely Avalon wouldn't know regardless, but
yeah,
Okay. You literally remind me of a singer that I remember back home.
oh yes,
See, quite so. Her name was, as far as I know, was Lona, though not Elizabeth.
is that the singer I remind you of?
See, you remind me of the Lana Del Rey singer.
Yes, yes, that's me.
Interesante. Muy bien. I did not think we were going to be meeting famous people tonight, señorita. You believe our luck, mija?
Avalon just raises a brow because she's not. She honestly has no idea.
Oh, but don't worry, I would much rather people not know who I am anyway. So I take no offense.
Very well then. Well, I assume we were summoned here for a reason. While it is nice to meet you, I'm sure us meeting is not why this shindig is called.
Well, no, I imagine we will have to present ourselves to the prince and have his permission to remain. If things worked here as they do in Los Angeles.
Indeed.
Marty turns and says, "That's true, but I gave us a moment here so I could send ahead a message."
Huh.
The prince, in his, whether it's some black humor or what the case may be, enjoys frequently holding court around a bonfire. I was making him aware that we have some newcomers who may not be prepared for such a event, and he has moved the gathering to another location, still within the forest.
I see.
A bonfire, that's curious.
Well,
I believe he likes to challenge the
Not being
dichotomy
so-
of civilization versus beast.
and well, being out in the forest, a bonfire isn't so strange after all, is it?
No, but it forces many to contend with the fact that while they might follow the rules of civilization, the beast they have within them does not. And it is quite capable of breaking those rules on their behalf easily.
See.
At least you don't have to worry about me going crazy, Mija.
Indeed. She grins and touches Miranda's shoulder.
Marty laughs and says, "No, our dear prince had other ideas." Gestures in another direction. He says, "We'll be heading that way," and begins to set off.
Well, ladies, gentlemen, shall we?
Yes,
And,
let's.
Avalon is going to look up to see if her favorite feathered friend has decided to tag along and watch what's going on.
He is indeed following with.
And she's just gonna look up at him and motion for him to come sit on her shoulder.
As you walk, Marius kind of starts to get a strange look on his face.
Something the matter?
As Marty may have mentioned, our prince has a strange sense of humor.
All right,
Knowing
and
I
she
am in
kind of
attendance, and quite possibly that another man by the name of Duncern might be in attendance as well. Well, you already know about my frequent, sometimes too frequent, conversations with those who are passed beyond.
all right.
The prince has seen fit to hold court at the headman's stump, where in previous days the sheriff would bring a convicted man to be beheaded.
Oh, how fun for you. And she just, there's sarcasm.
Elizabeth looks less than impressed.
And it's not long before you reach a clearing. There is a large stump in the center, clearly stained from use. And the man standing behind it would be uh, Prince Gunnar, who's pictured there. And then the smaller picture would be the gentleman standing next to him. And the other gentleman leans over and he whispers, but it's loud enough you guys can hear it. And he says, "Good Prince, it seems that our newcomers have joined us, but it also seems that perhaps this gathering point will have its own complications for some." The prince turns, and there's quite a few other kindred kind of milling about.
Elizabeth will activate her heightened senses and just take a stand of the area.
Okay. All right. And I don't remember. Don't think that one requires a roll, but
No, heightened senses are just automatic activation.
correct. That's right. All right. You can definitely, with your heightened senses, you can even smell the smoke, like wood smoke that kind of lingers around the prince
Mm-hmm.
and the man next to him. Yeah, he smells faintly of it too. You would imagine he was present at least tonight with some sort of fire. But he steps out and kind of begins to just walk along the perimeter of the area. The rest of the kindred kind of begin to gather closer and get quiet. The prince, after his companion, walks this lap, kind of pushing everyone towards the center. He stops looks around and he says, "Good evening and welcome to court. Tonight we welcome newcomers. We welcome back those who have been with us many years or even generations. We invite those who are new to join us, become part of the community. And we invite those who have been gone to return." He turns and he kind of raises his voice and he says, "And that is how all of our courts shall meet, with invitation, with understanding, that when we gather in here, we have already set aside certain things." And he picks up a duffel bag and he says, "And setting that aside our differences, our conflicts, will be key in the near future." And he throws the bag forward and it kind of breaks open and you see a number of wooden stakes inside. And he says, "And that will be our second order of business. Because, well, we've all watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer at some point. Well, at least most. Very rarely do individuals act upon the imagery portrayed there. For a man to be out carrying such implements, he must have a considerable amount of knowledge. More importantly, however, we need to identify who responsible parties are. And he turns and he holds out one hand towards Avalon and Elizabeth and Miranda. And he says, "But first and foremost, Amsterdam has always been a city of trade and a port. People, goods, even places sometimes, they come and go through Amsterdam. And very rarely is this region the end of someone's story. We can at least make it a more interesting middle. So welcome to the three of you. I am Prince Gunner. And he kind of looks between Avalon and Elizabeth and
What Buffy the Vampire Slayer is later, Mija. And when he starts looking at her, Miranda's just gonna kind of give a like curtsy.
okay.
Avalon will give a polite bow of her head.
Elizabeth takes a step forward, nods her head as well. "Thank you for your welcome, Prince Gunner."
He says, "Well, I do not expect you to disclose your business to the court as a whole. If you are doing something that might entail significant risk to ourselves or our position here, I ask that you give me a heads up so we can make arrangements."
Well, I'm sure a few of you might have an idea that I am a person of some degree of fame in mortal circles. I've just come to Amsterdam really to get away from my sire, who, quite honestly, is not that good for me at this point in time. I'm just looking for some peace and quiet in a fresh environment. I'm not looking to step on anyone's toes. I'm not cause any trouble. I just want to get to know you and have a bit of fun.
He gestures to the forest and he says, "Well, this is a good place to get to know people and a good place to avoid tension. We're certainly open to newcomers who wish to gather. We're open to newcomers who wish to bring new ideas to establishments to help the community, mortal and immortal communities, to grow." We will work out privately exactly what region you have claimed as your own, whether through residency or otherwise, to
Certainly,
ensure our territory is allotted and respected accordingly.
of course. And if I could be of any service to the torch in any way, I would be happy to.
He says, "I will certainly bear that in mind, as I'm sure will those others who carry authority in the community."
She smiles and takes a step back, leaving the floor to Avalon.
Oh. My name is Avalon Flynn, she says as she steps forward and she motions towards Miranda. And this is Miranda. We've essentially come here for a fresh start, and well, I am looking to establish a business. Nothing big. I'm a simple gardener.
He sits thinking, and finally he turns and he says, "You say you wish to establish a business. I must ask what variety of business you are seeking to bring to this city."
Well, as I stated, I am a gardener, and I have quite a green thumb. I'm exceptionally good with herbs and things of the like.
"I see. Well, that is a practice that, well, it has suffered in the past. We embrace fully here." Now, I imagine if you're running some sort of apothecary type establishment, then you may tangle a bit. Fair warning that there's a devout Christian faction.
Oh goody.
Miranda tries not to smirk too much.
I imagine if we establish a shop, we should also tether your territory to either that or your region of residence. Make
Well,
sure you can move relatively freely.
I've been looking at a few establishments. Have yet to actually pick one with certainty.
Well, those seem details that we can fine tune once you settle on a shop, but I have a couple of regions that have good optimal conditions for things like freestanding raised gardens, window boxes, that sort of variety.
Oh, sound lovely.
And he chuckles and he says, and I will make sure we get that information to you as well. Then he turns and he says, Victor, please make sure that it's documented that we follow up on it, ensuring that both of these fine young kindred that we help them identify and define a feeding area.
Miranda again smirks.
Avalon kind of looks around and looks back to the prince. You have a very nice court. It's refreshing to see something like this versus what you see in the inner cities.
And there's truth to that as well, but I was not born in a time of glass and steel, and have not been committed to converting everything over to the typical, as it were.
That is also refreshing to hear.
And the young lady who is with you, and he kind of gestures towards Miranda.
This is Miranda, and she motions for her to come forward.
She steps forward to Avalon's side.
Miranda is my. She ponders. She's pondering a way to put this. Miranda is my very close friend and business associate.
And he kind of looks at her a couple times. She seems of an atypical variety for our kind.
Well, she's definitely special.
He gives a warm smile to Avalon at that.
Elizabeth is quietly wondering to herself if they're racist against Latino women. Because she doesn't notice anything special about her otherwise.
Miranda has been with me for quite some time. I would not have it any other way.
Well, that is to be fair. Victor there has been with me for quite some time. And he gestures to the man who has been taking notes for him.
She will politely nod her head in Victor's direction as well.
So tell me, your companion here. Obviously, she does not require a territory. Do you feel her other needs are being handled appropriately?
Suppose that would be for her to answer. Miranda?
Si, senor. She has cared for all of my needs with the agreement that she has made with Senor. And then she gestures towards. I want to say Maurice, but now my brain's like, that's not the right name. It's
Marius.
Marius. Senor Marius.
The prince turns and picks up the wooden stakes and he says, "We have newcomers in this city. Not just the ones that stand before us that have shared a bit about themselves. No more than reasonable or expected, but a kind courtesy nonetheless. And now we have those who are we have these newcomers. The ones before us." And then he holds up the bag. "And the ones who do not come in civility. We must identify what are they here for? What do they want? If a man doesn't go into another man's territory armed, prepared to hunt him, unless he wants something from that man. Maybe it's the territory itself. Maybe it's something we know. Gunnar throws down the stakes and he says, "We must identify who it is who comes into our house unannounced, uninvited, and armed, and seeks to do us harm. Is one of our own turned?" Then he turns and he says, "For the time being, all kindred in the city are to be accompanied by an additional kindred or a Gould companion if they are out in public. I wish to identify what this threat is, but I am not willing to sacrifice lives to get there.
Prince Denner, I apologize. I do have my own duel. I did not bring him tonight. I didn't know the nature of this meeting, and I didn't know it would be appropriate to bring him. But would he qualify as an acceptable guardian, or would you be providing someone for me?
I can provide for those who do not have their own staff. However, if you have such a retainer, that should prove an adequate deterrent.
Excellent.
These are not the hunters of old that gather the pitchforks and torches and march out to your front door. They've become more and more discreet, more and more paranoid.
Certainly, with modern technology, they are much better equipped. However,
The idea is deter through numbers more than anything. One of us alone is a potentially easy target. Two, on the other hand, gets less complicated. But I would ask that you at least have your retainer meet with one of the authority figures that we can confirm that they are indeed what you have presented us. You've told us a bit about him. Let's see if the truth matches up with the story. If so, it will be yours to do with as you please.
Shadad's says, and where should I bring him?
He can certainly come and visit me here, perhaps after our meeting this evening, if it doesn't run too long.
Very well.
No, as we may know, there's more to this city. We control a number of the older, more historic locations. That being said, we avoid the Christian foundations. There's a group that has a pretty good hold on them. We generally try to avoid photographic sign-in. In fact, at best, I would prefer no photograph anywhere in the city. And he kind of smirks a little bit at Elizabeth and he said, if you manage to pull off having no photographs of you in this city, I will be damned impressed.
She laughs. I'm afraid there's probably already been a few. I can't help it. They follow me wherever I go. But I always make sure to appear living when I'm around the paparazzi. Um, I never let them see me hunt. I never let them see me go in and out of Elysium. I'm very careful and very discreet.
As for general feeding in the city, we maintain a region open to the public. We ask that you be discreet. Beyond that, as long as you don't jeopardize anyone else, you're welcome to pursue whatever diet you wish. Now, as we begin to address these issues, I would like input on how we might track down these individuals who appear to be here to hunt us. I'm open to input on how we might field test, for example. We've had Clan Nosferatu offer to use facial recognition software to watch for these individuals.
I'm just a musician, I'm afraid. I don't know I would be of much use to.
Well, if no one has any immediate suggestions, I will for now table that discussion and we can do a follow up, or people are welcome to meet with me one on one. So here is our Q&A time then, as it were. Does anyone have any questions on the topics involved or any other matters they wish to bring forth this evening? As it's relatively quiet, Marius kind of steps out of the crowd a little bit and he says, "Yeah, could you have a discussion with the foliage of your Elysium?" That's what I want to bring up. I'm tired of getting beat up walking through the forest.
At that, Avalon kind of can't help the the laugh that escapes her mouth. He brings up the tree again.
Senor, he is not going to be getting rid of his branch again. You are okay now, I promise.
And Marius just kind of shakes his head as he looks around at the trees. Another gentleman in a well-dressed suit comes out from the crowd. And he says, "Sir Prince, I would like to make you aware that there's been some discrepancies in shipping. And additionally, we've had issues with product coming in under the radar, as it were. I never signed for it, I never approve it." I suggest we look into who is bringing what into the city and why. Another gentleman comes over and he says, Prince, I would like to ask for some adequately assigned staff. And then he looks around and he says, anyone really, it doesn't have to be directly part of the prince's staff, but I'm looking for temporary, I suppose would be the best word. A temporary easement to hold a chess tournament. And under that, I would ask for temporary staff as well who would attend, help keep me safe, be my extra set of eyes. You have someone who meets that criteria, please have them contact me directly. And then he stops and he says, additionally, I suppose it may be time for me to fashion a adequate retainer of my own, a permanent case. The prince hears out what he has to say, and then he says, do you have any volunteers who might wish to work with Max as a security consultant for the World Chess Tournament? As you guys are kind of milling about, another man, rather flamboyantly dressed, comes out of the crowd. He says, you must be Prince Gunnar. I'm here to introduce myself. All that procedural stuff. But what I ask of you is an opportunity to learn new methods. Give me permission to mingle, not just with the kindred, but with others. But then he kind of steps back, and the prince looks around and he says, does anyone else have any questions, comments, concerns? Not seeing a response, he turns and he says, very well. Then I will conclude today's Elysium, free everyone to mingle. Newcomers, if you do wish to chat with me one-on-one, you'd be welcome to. However, as we wrap up, I'd like to note that due to their assistance in helping find Miss Grant, help identify her here in the city, we must offer a boon to the Nosferatu. And I will offer that one myself, because certainly locating a new kindred for the court is of utmost importance. Secondly, we have a concern about product moving through the docks, perhaps undocumented, even by us. We must address, additionally, the effort put forth by the Tremere. Marty has served as a point of contact for not just kindred of his own clan, not just kindred who's he knows or is contacted to. Marty has served as a point man for 3 new kindred in the last 6 months, introducing them, helping them learn the ropes. To that end, I offer him a minor boon personally as well. Then, as he's almost completed, as he's just starting to turn away, he says, and before I forget, I suppose, and he kind of chuckles a little bit, looks at Marius, and he says, because it seems to me that Mr. Marius there is owed some peace of mind, stating that these oak trees will not be a bother. So Marius, on behalf of the native flora of our Elysium, I offer you a minor boon and a promise that no branch will be left unkempt overhead. No tree will lift its roots to trip you, Marius. I promise you, and I back that promise with this boon, our plant life is completely safe here. Maybe a couple GMO crops. And with that, he kind of turns and stands. Marty chuckles a little bit at Marius. The prince says, we'll conclude our Elysium meeting for the evening. I don't know whether to take it with relief that I wasn't bombarded with questions or panic that no one asked any. And thank those of you who did attend for showing up, bringing word back to those who can't. And thank the newcomers for them taking their time to attend as well, get to know us, get to know our city. He turns and he says, and I suppose I should thank Marty for his advance warning so that we didn't hold court around a bonfire and panic the new folks. He turns and he says, for this evening, the remainder of this evening, he says, my personal territory around this Elysium will be open for hunting as well. Those of you who are low on blood or who need to top off, you're welcome to hunt my territory. And as people start to kind of mill about, follow out, some of them gathering, gossip and chit chat yet. Uh, Marty comes back to the two of you and he says, "You wish to work out the details with the prince now? He's willing, otherwise, he can do some communication after the fact, pull up some notes, some maps."
Certainly, we might as well deal with it now while I'm here.
The prince comes over on hearing this and says, "Well, I'm given to understand you have a place of residence established, Miss Grant."
Yes, in Vondel Park.
"Excellent. A good area. Lot of residences. Plenty of feeding opportunities there. I think the key then is we'll have to get word out and make sure everyone else knows that that territory is claimed, but I don't think you'll have a problem maintaining your dietary needs from that region."
It's usually not hard for me. There's always someone that recognizes me, wants my odd bath, and is excited when I offer them a trip up to my apartment. It's really not difficult for me to find someone appropriate.
Well, then I will leave it in your hands to handle the details. I will put out an announcement.
So I'm the only kindred in that area?
In the immediate area, we'll establish an exact range, but there's enough private residences that a 6 or an 8 block radius is still going to give you plenty to work with at this point. And should there be a region that is unclaimed, we can always expand your control into it.
Wonderful. Now, one concern I do have is that I do travel quite frequently for work. Will my territory be respected when I'm away temporarily?
Yes, if we are aware of your absence and we plan a schedule, that would not be a concern.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your hospitality, Prince Denner. I will be sure that my retainer presents himself to you or one of your staff, and I'm sure you will find my presence in Amsterdam quite unobtrusive.
Well, obtrusive can be beneficial too, depending on its application. I suggest you speak with Monica further as well. She serves as a point of contact for the Toreador. She also has some other working reputations that might help you network further as well.
Wonderful, I will do so.
And he will turn to Avalon and Miranda and say, "And while we haven't established anything formally, while you're still setting up shop and whatnot, I think if you are posing with Marius in the same region at least, we will
Indeed.
discuss Marius's current territory and look at expanding it in a blanket format so that you and he share that feeding territory."
Excellent. And she just kind of like looks at Miranda and says, "You're growing, darling."
Oh, see, I am so sorry. And she kind of moves around, looking down at the plants growing up around her feet.
Gunnar says, well, that's a neat trick, certainly. Might be a little noticeable,
That's why I tend to keep moving when I am working, just so that it does not happen.
though. That does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I understand that you've met both Marius and Marty, which means you are in capable hands to network from there. Marty seems to know everybody, or does business with somebody who knows everybody.
He has his hands in many pots.
I think he has enough gold in his pot that he can afford to splash a little into other ones. And then he'll turn and, well, as it seems, everybody's gotten pointed in the right direction and gotten some updates. I will be taking my leave unless either of you new folks needs anything.
No, I think I have everything I need. I'm grateful that you voted me so graciously into your city, Prince Dinner.
Yes, I
Well,
think I'm set as well.
excellent. Well, and I have a sparring match that I am going to go try and catch. But if either of you need anything, you're certainly welcome to reach out. We'll get some formal documentations together, put that information spread around in the news.
Thank you. If you need anything of us, you know where we can be found.
All right. Does anybody have anyone else they want to talk to while they're here?
I think I'll probably just do it in Blue Book if that's okay with you.
That's certainly fine too. I just want to make sure I put the option out for everybody before we wrap up.
Mija, should you get the new girl's number? Perhaps she can take you to a concert or something. We can have a good time.
Ah, yes.
Sure,
And
do you have a cell phone?
Miranda will open her small purse and kind of hold the purse out towards Avalon.
oh, and she'll look through Miranda's purse until she finds the phone. Indeed. She pulls out the cell phone.
Elizabeth takes the phone and puts her phone number into the contact information. Hands it
Okay.
back. There you are.
And she will. Is this a cell phone or a landline?
That's my cell. Just
All
shoot me a
right.
message and I'll have your number.
And she'll just shoot her a message that just says Avalon/Miranda. So that way she knows.
Okay.
All right. Well, and if nobody has anything else, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, players, for playing, watchers for watching. This has been a Nightfall in Amsterdam scene as we first begin to meet some bits and pieces of the Kindred Court. So we look forward to having you join us again.